The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are simply that, opinions. All are presumed innocent until proven otherwise in a court of law. Sensitive topics are discussed. Discretion is advised.
I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation, the brutal murders of Keith, Jennifer, Sophia, and Jesse Caneiro, a New Jersey family living a great life in Colts Neck until the massacre. Why would anyone take out an entire family? Prosecutors say it was all about the money. Here's the story.
It's an accusation as old as Cain and Abel. A brother consumed by jealousy and resentment turns on his own blood. Prosecutors say that's exactly what happened in April of 2018 when Paul Caneiro allegedly set out to annihilate his brother's family. Authorities accuse Caneiro of first killing his more successful brother Keith outside of Keith's mansion. Then they say he went inside where he murdered Keith's wife and stabbed the couple's young children to death. Prosecutors allege he then set the house on fire in an attempt to erase the evidence. Investigators say the violence was not impulsive, but calculated, rooted in a bitter financial dispute and years of simmering envy. They further claim that Caneiro torched his own home afterwards to confuse investigators and mask the crimes. Arrested within days, Caneiro now stands accused in a case prosecutors describe as a chilling tale of jealousy, betrayal, and a family feud that ended in one of New Jersey's most horrific crimes.
So in this case, one of the strange facts is that there are actually two murder weapons, a gun and a knife. Now, as this trial is progressing in New Jersey, and it's a trial that's going to play out over the course of weeks and months, not days, okay? Prosecutors went through a lot of evidence and showed the jury lots of guns and weapons, and we don't know which one at this point of the trial, which one is the actual murder weapon gun, murder weapon knife, but I want to walk you through what the jury is seeing. And we begin with some handguns that were found in the basement. These were found in a locker in the basement of Paul Caneiro's house, the defendant. At least one of them didn't have a serial number on it. And more than one of them was a Sig Sauer, which prosecutors say that is the type of gun that was used in the killing. So he has more than one Sig Sauer, and apparently one of them is the alleged murder weapon. Paul's gun collection and gun parts were also found in the basement. Take a look at this image here. This is where those guns you just saw were found, and Paul had lots of guns and ammo in his basement. Not illegal, but he was stocked. Like, he had guns, he had ammo. My guess is he did a lot of shooting on the range. Now, there was also a handgun found in the master bedroom. This was found in Paul Caneiro's bedroom. This is also a Sig Sauer 9mm handgun. The same kind, again, the prosecutors say was used in the killings, and it was found in his bedroom, under his bed, locked in a gun lock, in a gun safe. There it is. So that's significant, right? That's important, I guess. But there's only really one gun that is really important in all of this. Now, we've got more information to go through with you here. The prosecutor spoke in the opening statement talking about the ballistics, right? Ballistics, so important. We're seeing it in the case in Columbus, Ohio, involving the Teppies, allegations that they found guns and they're able to match it to the defendant or suspect in that case. Take a listen to what the prosecutor had to say.
That gun, as well as the barrel and the silencer, were sent out to the New Jersey State Police Ballistics Unit for testing. In addition, The ballistic evidence located at 15 Willowbrook Road, so the bullets and the shell casings, those were also sent to the New Jersey State Police Ballistics Unit for testing and comparison. And you're going to hear about the conclusions of that testing. And what you're going to learn is that those conclusions included a finding that bullets and shell casings from 15 Willowbrook Road came from that barrel in his backpack and from the gun in his basement.
Okay, let's talk about some other places where evidence was allegedly found. We go to Suzanne's Porsche. This is Paul Caneiro's wife's Porsche. Not his Porsche. They have two white Porsches. This is his wife's. A backpack was found inside Susan's Porsche in the rear cargo area. It's sort of a hatchback type of car, so it doesn't have a trunk. The prosecution says that inside this backpack was a gun barrel and a silencer. But wait, there's more. Also from the backpack, this knife. Now, we've not heard in court whether or not this was the knife used in the killings, but they took a lot of time to show it to the jury. There it is, being displayed in court and showing where the blade goes up. And there's the blade exposed. Again, not sure if this is the murder weapon, but it's a process. There's chain of custody. You've got to get these things into evidence. Okay, so now let's review what we know about the scene, right? Keith Caneiro, found outside in the yard, shot once in his lower back, but 4 times in the head, 5 shots. Jennifer, found inside the home on the first floor stairs leading to the basement, stabbed multiple times in the torso, but also shot in the head. Little Jesse, Keith and Jennifer's son, in the kitchen, stabbed multiple times. And Sophia, that beautiful little girl, on the landing of the stairs between the first and second floor, also stabbed multiple times. So all 4 killed, 2 different weapons, complete annihilation of the family. And it brings us to the first question in our investigation this hour. Did the killer plan to murder all 4 family members? Was that the plan? Or was there something else going on here? Were there all of a sudden witnesses that had to be taken care of? Or was that the plan? Joining me to help answer this question, retired police commander, author, and host of the podcast, Gardens of Evil Inside the Zion Society Cult, Mike King is with us. Also joining us, host of the very popular Pascal Show. Pascal is here as well. Great to have you both here. Pascal, I'll give you first dibs on this one.
All right.
The killer, whether it's Paul Caneiro or not, do you think the killer showed up at Keith Caneiro's mansion in the middle of the night with a plan to murder and annihilate the entire family?
My gut reaction is yes, his plan was to wipe out the entire family, but there's still a possibility here that maybe as he was taking the life of his brother, that maybe the wife saw what was going on, maybe the kids heard the loud bangs. I mean, you know, you have loud bangs going on. Of course, people are going to react to what's going on. So that part, I think, is what could be at play here, too, that maybe he had a plan of taking just his brother out, and then maybe there were witnesses, and when you have witnesses, you kind of have to take them out in that weird, disturbing, and very sinister way. But then you also got to think about money, right? It's all about money, 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 money. Maybe he wanted to wipe out all of his bloodline so that if there was anything that could be inherited, could possibly go over to him. So yes and no at the same time, to answer your question?
I got you. It's a long trial, more evidence coming in. Mike King, what are your thoughts here on the killer? Did the killer show up 3 o'clock in the morning to murder and just eliminate an entire family?
You know, Vinny, I think that's the key, and I really am glad to hear Pascal say his gut's telling him, because I think that's the same thing that the jury is going to be feeling. And what you said is the exact point that I want to bring out from a behavioral perspective, and that is it's 3 a.m. There is no expectation that he's going to walk into that home or break into that home or have a confrontation and not have the entire family there. They live there. They sleep there. Mom and her children are going to be in that home at 3 o'clock in the morning, which means he's either making some really disorganized decisions or he's planning on eliminating the entire group. And I think we have to take into account that, number one, the power goes out and Keith knows that he's got to go outside and get that generator fired up so that they can get power to the house. His wife likely was awake when he woke up and said, I'm going to go outside. It's very possible she even followed him downstairs, or when those gunshots that the neighbor heard were certainly something that was audible and she would have heard, that may have caused her to come downstairs. There's an assumption, I think, being put in front of the jury that because Jennifer and that point of contact was the stairwell, that's where the two came into contact with each other. And we just don't know. It's possible, even as Pascal mentioned, that she came out and witnessed the homicide of her husband and then turned and ran with fear. Now, they say the doorway to the basement, I don't know if it's the doorway to the basement or the same general area to go upstairs, but I can't imagine a mother running to the basement unless she's going to try to get a weapon or something like that. But nonetheless, she's murdered there. And it's so interesting that the murder is stab wounds and the gunshot wounds, because we don't know if the gunshot is execution after the fact, an additional sign, but stabbing is so stinking personal and intimate, Vinny, that it tells us how much anger was involved in that. She likely knew what was going on in the business, what the things were that the prosecution is saying is the motive behind the murder. And she represented a threat. She may have been the only line of defense between them and the children. But then I think, Vinny, the kids may have witnessed it. And that then forced the hand of having to then execute the children.
Right.
And I guess
because if it is Paul Caneiro,
I'm sorry, yeah,
they'll know him. It's Uncle Paulie. Pascal, what are your thoughts about the two different weapons? How does that play into your analysis?
I don't know. To me, it feels like a little bit of a just in case weapon, but then he ended up using it anyway. I don't know what to think of it. You know what I mean? To me, it kind of gives off the vibe that he was planning on using that weapon. He was planning on using not only that gun, but also using that knife. And maybe he was planning on using that knife on the wife and the two children, maybe to add more confusion or something of that sort. But there's this other part of me that makes me think that maybe that knife was there just as a backup weapon, you know what I mean? Like as a backup plan. But yeah.
Yeah, I like the confusion angle because then it makes, well, are there two killers, right? A la Alec Murdoch. Mike King, Pascal, always great to have you both aboard. Appreciate your insight, and we'll speak again soon. Coming up next, what does the silencer in the backpack reveal?
He waited until dark, and he snuck up on the family while they slept.
The Court TV podcast will return.
The defendant pointed that loaded handgun at his brother, and he pulled the trigger 6 times. 5 of those shots hit Keith. One person who had the means, the motive, and the opportunity. And that person is sitting right here today.
He was shot outside Keith Caneiro, right? In his yard, not inside the house, but outside, in the yard, in the public area. Now, obviously, 10 acres Keith Caneiro had, I believe, of property, so neighbors aren't right next door. But there was a neighbor who heard something, said something, and called 911. Take a listen.
I heard gunshots that were very concerning, and that's what woke me up. I woke up, I heard the shots, and I said, someone just got whacked. Those are the words I said to myself. Those exact words.
Okay. Now, you didn't see anything, correct?
No, I was laying in bed.
Okay.
Colts Neck Police, Operator Ward.
Hey, how are you today?
Hi.
Question, do you have hunting in the middle of the night in Colts Neck or not?
No, you're not allowed to hunt anywhere in the middle of the night.
Like,
Are you hearing gunshots?
I heard gunshots, yeah.
Okay, where are you? Let me send somebody to the area.
Fouling and River's Edge.
Okay, you don't see anything, you just hear it?
I was in bed and clearly I heard bump, and then one boom. Like, it's just clearly a gunshot.
Okay, absolutely. We'll send somebody right over to the area. And you said you can't see a car or anything that would be involved or anything like that, right? It's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Okay. What street are you on, just so we can get a reference point?
River's Edge.
You're on River's Edge.
I could face the River's Edge and Farms. So probably quite aware. Just didn't seem right.
And how many of them did you hear?
It was five.
Five.
And then 2-second wait and one more.
Okay, let me send somebody where you're at there. Can I just get your name for my record?
Dennis Kapora.
He heard all 6 shots. Police responded. So why didn't they see Keith Caneiro? Why didn't they see the killer driving their car around there? Take a listen to where he lives in reference to where the shooting was.
But you didn't say to the 911 operator, like, I heard the shots, they sound a couple miles away, did you?
No.
Did they sound far away?
I heard them clearly.
Okay, so does that mean they sounded close?
Close enough that I heard them distinctively well.
Okay. Were you made aware that you're approximately 2 to 3 miles away from where this...
It could be, but again, you're in the dead of the night in Colts Neck, and where we live is very, very quiet. It was distinctive.
He heard him. Like, he said 6 shots. He called 911. It's not like he's making it up after the fact, right? Okay, but he lives 2 to 3 miles away. Take a listen to the prosecutor in her opening statement, because I'm going to try to put some pieces of this together tonight. Take a listen.
You remember Susan's Porsche Cayenne, the car that the defendant backed out of the driveway and that the family sat in and ultimately drove to headquarters. Well, at headquarters, that vehicle was searched. And in the back of that vehicle, in the rear cargo area, officers located a backpack. And inside of that backpack were numerous items belonging to the defendant. His bank cards, his credit cards, his laptop, pieces of his mail, his daughter's savings bonds, his passport, and also the barrel of a 9mm handgun and a gun silencer.
Here it is in court, this so-called gun silencer, which was testified to as an unknown gun part, but that's what it is, a suppressor, a silencer. There it is, folks. And that brings me to the next question in our investigation. Remember, the guy heard the shots 2 to 3 miles away. What does the silencer in the backpack reveal here? Like, what does it mean? Joining me, criminal defense attorney, former head prosecutor in New Jersey, county prosecutor in New Jersey, Bob Bianchi, and firearms expert, studio armorer for more than 30 years, and author of the guidebook, Prop Gun Set Safety for Film and TV, Dutch Merrick is back with us as well. All right, Dutch, I'm going to begin with you first. Is what we saw in court there, is that a silencer?
It appears to be. Without seeing, a silencer has to have baffling inside of it to help dissipate the sound and break up the air travel. So without seeing inside of it, I can't tell you 100%, but from the outside of it, it sure looks like a suppressor. And it's important to know that they're not really silencers. That's a movie myth that us movie guys have created. It's a suppressor, which reduces the sound quite a bit, but it doesn't make it silent. And I think that's germane to this case. If the guy said he heard it from 3 miles away.
Okay, well, that's what I'm going to ask you. He said he heard it clearly. It woke him up. He was sleeping, and the sound of the gun. Is it possible that a silencer was used and he would have heard it 2 to 3 miles away and it would wake him up inside his own home?
So let's think about the conditions. First of all, a suppressor does not silence the gun. It suppresses it, and it's designed to take the decibel level below 140, which is the OSHA level for hearing damage. So a gun is very, very loud, and if you suppress it, it takes it down quite a bit, just so it's not enough to cause hearing damage. So again, it's still a pretty loud report, even with a suppressor. Now, if you're on a cool night and there's cool, dense air, I've heard sounds travel a mile and a half. It sound like they're right next door. So with a cool night and dense air and not a lot of obstructions, topography or trees or a mountain, you could theoretically hear a suppressed firearm from quite a distance.
Yeah, and
in my experience.
It was a cool November night. All right, Bob Bianchi, take this now, put it in the courtroom in front of the jury. What is this silencer in the backpack going to reveal here?
This is a damning piece of evidence for the defense and a great piece of evidence for prosecutors. Kind of getting back to the segment before, this is showing premeditation, purposefulness. I have a theory. I don't know if the prosecutor's going to put it together, but that this was made to look like a scene of two murderers with two different types of weapons. And who would think that Uncle Paulie, to use your expression, Vinny, would ever do this to his two nephews and nieces, their innocence? Well, you got to remember, the plot was to make it look like both he and his brothers were being attacked by somebody. So this is what lends credibility to the plan. We keep forgetting it got frustrated because he got caught in the middle of this. But this is all part and parcel. But those pieces of evidence and the silencer and the barrel and all of that, unless it's planted, this will be a very, very difficult case for the defense to get around.
All right, Bob, let me ask you a follow-up to that. Your thoughts about police being in the area. They responded 2 to 3 miles away. Are you surprised in Colts Neck, New Jersey, which you're familiar with, being a Jersey guy, that they didn't see anything or they didn't come across anything that night?
Oh, boy, that's a really hard question. No, I guess I'm not surprised. I've seen mistakes get made. I've seen things get missed. You got to also remember, when you talk about a place like Colts Neck, Vinny, you're talking about one of the most affluent communities probably in the United States. This is not a typical kind of crime. These police officers are not trained in this level of violence, for sure, in this sleepy, very highly affluent area. So there may have been something that maybe, and I don't mean any disrespect to the police officers, they're just in a different environment that maybe to another officer that's in a more active environment, they would have noticed that may have gotten overlooked here. But that's something the defense is going to try to bring out. And I'm sure the prosecutor, who's done a tremendous job in their opening statement and in their direct case, is going to be asking the same question to make sure they fill in that blank for the jury.
Yeah, and Dutch, I think they need someone like you to testify about silencers not being silent, because if you're just a juror and you've been watching all these movies you've been making all these years, Dutch, we're going to think that it's like, doo, doo, and there's no way someone's going to hear that 3 miles away. So the killer didn't use a silencer, so the killer is not Paul Caneiro. He would have used the silencer that he had.
Right. Yeah. It's sadly, someone created a sound effect in like the 50s or 60s, and they've been using it in movies and TV ever since. And it has created this myth, and that's why they call them silencers. And it is absolutely not. They're a suppressor at best, and they do still make a loud report. So I think that really plays in here. And hopefully one of the attorneys brings in someone that can speak to that.
Well, you may be getting a call, Dutch. This trial's got a couple more months to go. Dutch Merrick, always great to have your expertise. Bob Bianchi's going to stick around. Still to come. Can the defense cast doubt on the DNA evidence?
Now, back to the Court TV podcast.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murders of Keith Caneiro, his wife, and his children. Murdered with a gun and a knife. A brutal, bloody ending for this New Jersey family. And prosecutors say it was Keith Caneiro's own brother who did it. Here's the story.
They were once inseparable, brothers and best friends, until everything fractured. Prosecutors say that what began as a strained sibling relationship spiraled into unimaginable violence. Paul Caneiro is accused of driving to his brother Keith's home, shooting him before turning his rage on Keith's wife Jennifer and their 2 young children. Authorities allege Caneiro then set the house on fire, believing the flames would erase his crimes. Instead, investigators say the blaze exposed them. Firefighters discovered the family inside, and medical examiners determined that the victims were already dead before that fire took hold. Prosecutors point to years of simmering tension, bitter financial disputes, and allegations of theft by Paul Caneiro. They claim Paul Caneiro acted alone and planned the attacks in advance. The case rocked the Colts Neck community of New Jersey and stunned the nation, raising haunting questions about how family conflict can allegedly erupt into unthinkable violence.
Now, one of the challenges for prosecutors, and you want to always do this if you can, is to take the defendant and put them at the scene of the crime at the time of the murders. And there's different ways you can do it. Like sometimes you get video surveillance, sometimes you have an eyewitness. Sometimes you have to use circumstantial evidence to kind of piece it together. And that's what prosecutors are doing here, circumstantial evidence. One piece are a pair of jeans. And these jeans shown inside of the courtroom, multiple blood stains on these jeans, introduced in front of this jury, an important piece of evidence, obviously. Where were they found? These jeans were found in Paul Caneiro, the defendant, in his house in the basement. Okay, he's got a pair of jeans that are a little bloody in the basement. Why are they so important? Take a listen to the prosecutor.
There was this pile of charred items and articles all congealed together that was located right beneath the window well where the fire was started in the defendant's basement. In that pile was a pair of men's jeans with blood staining in multiple areas. Folded up in those jeans were 6 black nitrile gloves and 1 live round of ammunition. Same type of ammunition and head stamp that was found at 15 Willowbrook Road. Those jeans and those gloves, as well as numerous other items, were sent out for DNA testing. You are going to have the opportunity to hear from the forensic DNA scientists who performed that testing. And they are going to tell you about their conclusions and findings for each and every piece of evidence that they tested. And what you're going to learn is that those findings, those results, included a finding that these sources of DNA located on multiple areas of those bloody jeans in the defendant's basement came from none other than his niece, Sophia Caneiro, and in one area from his nephew, Jesse Caneiro. You're also going to learn that Sophia Caneiro's DNA was on some of those black nitrile gloves as well as other items in that pile.
Powerful evidence, right? Powerful. Scientific evidence, circumstantial about the ultimate accusation here, but powerful nonetheless. Take a listen now to the defense, because you've got to deal with all of the evidence. You have to have some form of a potential explanation. Take a listen.
They took and they tested Paul's DNA the same way they did Keith, Jennifer, Sophia, and Jesse's. But they never even bothered to get Corey Caneiro's DNA. And you know why that matters, ladies and gentlemen? When you have the opportunity to hear from the testimony of the DNA experts in this case, you will understand why that matters so much in this case. Because in this case, we're dealing with family members who you can imagine have very similar DNA profiles.
Corey Caneiro, the third Caneiro brother, right? His DNA never tested. What can the defense do with that? Brings me to the next question in our investigation. Can the defense cast doubt on the DNA evidence? right? Everyone's in the same family here, right? The defendant, the victims, the two children, right? Blood relatives, and the person that the defense seems to be pointing the finger at, another brother. Still with me, New Jersey attorney Bob Bianchi, and joining me, private investigator Lauren Vellucci. Lauren, I'll begin with you. What are your thoughts here? Can the defense cast any doubt on this DNA evidence by the fact that Corey Caneiro's never been tested?
I don't think so, Vinny. This is, he's not a twin. There's no secret kind of chromosomes there for testing. This is damning evidence. I think if they're going to go against some things, it might be the fact that they didn't really do a full investigation of the other brother. That's fair. It seems sloppy. But the DNA evidence, I think they're going to have a real hard time getting around. It doesn't look good, along with the multitude of other things that we've been seeing already.
Bob, the DNA evidence, they had long hearings about this, litigated over the course of years, but prosecutors are going to be allowed to present it. Obviously, the defense can fight against it. Can they undermine the DNA evidence in this case?
I hate to bring back the specter of OJ, but if one has the historical perspective of understanding that, they relied so heavily on the DNA evidence, and when Mark Fuhrman exploded in the manner in which the DNA was collected, the prosecution had a difficult time trying to get around all the other massive circumstantial evidence that proved their case. And what concerns me here, Vinny, is that you're right. There were legal proceedings with regard to the use of this particular and peculiar kind of testing. I say peculiar, had never been used before in New Jersey and passed the standard that's allowed for admissible evidence because there weren't enough samples and quality of samples. So they won the opportunity, the prosecutors, to introduce it. My question is a rhetorical one. With all the other evidence, do I want to admit something that down the road a Supreme Court or appellate division could reverse because maybe it wasn't scientifically reliable? Last point. The defense can claim all they want that Caneiro brother, I forget his name, that he wasn't tested. That's not relevant here. It's the victim's blood and DNA that's on the pants in the defendant's house. That has nothing to do with his brother.
So, Lauren, we talk about Corey Caneiro a lot because that seems like the only place the defense can go. Do you think a juror, though, if they just attack the science of the testing, do you think jurors have any level of skepticism, or when they hear those three magical letters, DNA, are they just hook, line, and sinker sold on the results?
It's hard to tell because jurors love DNA evidence, and whether or not they fully understand every little aspect of this newer testing, the fact that it is there, I think that they are more likely to sink their teeth into that. Not only that, with the mountain of evidence that we've seen, even him on surveillance camera driving his Porsche, and I know your guest last night didn't think that was very damning evidence for a car person. They know the type of cars that they see and like in the nighttime. And to me, that was a Porsche all day long and two times on Sunday, and it was a white one. So I think if they have a car guy, that right there is going to hold up. And so I think there's so much other evidence in this case that if they're have any questions on DNA, I think they're going to kind of just be happy that there is DNA.
Bob, does this turn into a battle of the experts? You think the defense is going to bring someone in and say, hey, you can't trust this science?
Yeah, Vinny, exactly. You're right on it. I mean, the court's ruling was we're going to allow it to be admitted, but that does not mean the defense cannot vigorously attack the science, the uniqueness of this, the fact that the New Jersey State Police Lab itself could not do this kind of testing, that they had to go to an outside place with a novel in New Jersey theory and computer scientists in order to come up with the conclusion here. And that's why I talk about the OJ factor. Will the prosecutors unwittingly be dragging the case into a battle of the experts and create doubt in that one juror mind? And that's why I'm wondering, with all the other evidence, is this DNA really worth it? And sometimes as a prosecutor, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. All right, Bob Bianchi, Lauren Vellucci. I feel like instead of talking about true crime, the three of us should be having a bowl of pasta or something. But I
agree. I
exactly,
agree.
right? It's amazing. All right, but thanks so much. Appreciate your time. We'll see you again real soon. Coming up next, does Corey Caneiro's statement to detectives sound suspicious?
He did not commit these crimes. He did not hurt anyone. He did not harm anyone.
This is the Court TV Podcast.
Corey Caneiro was on the outside of that. They never investigated Corey. They never looked into Corey. They never did a single thing to investigate Corey. Not a single thing.
It was clear to me what the defense was doing there in their opening statement. You know, whether they argue it at the end of the case or not, they're pointing the finger at Corey Caneiro as a suspect in all of this, and then also pointing out that police didn't do their job because they didn't investigate him, and that could lead, from their perspective, I believe, to reasonable doubt. But they did speak with Corey Caneiro. It's not like they never talked to him. And as a matter of fact, one of the detectives spoke to Corey Caneiro, and he told the jury something that Corey Caneiro told him, and it really struck me. Let me play it for you. Take a listen.
You spoke with Corey Caneiro on more than one occasion as far as this investigation, right? Yes. One time you spoke with Corey Caneiro, you were in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
It would have been obviously more convenient for your investigation if Corey Caneiro had come to you, right?
Yes.
But that you determined was not going to be possible, right?
Correct.
And if you wanted to talk to him that night, you would need to drive to Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And that was because Corey had a medical condition that prevented him from driving at night?
That was what was told to Detective Petrozello and I, yes.
Told to Detective Petrozello by Corey?
Yes.
Okay, a little piece of double hearsay gets into evidence. That's okay, right? The detective told him that Corey told the detective, and then he says it in court. But Corey doesn't drive at night. He's telling the detective during the course of the investigation. The killer was driving at night, whoever killed Keith Caneiro. So that brings me to the final question in my investigation this hour. Does Corey Caneiro's statement to detectives sound suspicious? I don't drive at night. Joining me, true crime podcaster from Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Tony Bruschi is here. And criminal defense attorney John Day. All right, Tony, what do you think? Does it sound suspicious to you that I don't drive at night? And, I mean, everyone knows the killer was driving at night.
Is it suspicious, or does it continue to point evidence in one direction, which is not at Corey? To me, it's not really suspicious at all. Not even a little, and the defense knows it, which is why they seem to keep pointing at what Corey did instead of just what he said. It really feels like they're grasping at straws here at some point. What Corey actually told police is he gave them the email that Keith sent the night before, the one about the missing money and about cutting off the payments to Paul's wife. He handed prosecutors their motive basically on a silver platter. Yeah, it was inconvenient that they had to drive a little ways, but this guy didn't know what was going on. He thought his whole family may be under attack at the moment. His wife called police instead of him. He was already in Pennsylvania. She was trying to make that call to say he wanted to cooperate so they could get with him that night. He left the state before the bodies were found. Again, that's another thing they're trying to point out. It's weird. Or again, he's running for his life because he doesn't know what's going on in the fog of war. And who knows what Paul was actually saying to Corey, considering that's kind of the storyline that Paul was trying to go with, it seems, of that the family's under attack. None of it really is suspicious. The defense wants you to squint at Corey's behavior and see something dark because they don't really have an answer for the murder weapon in Paul's basement or the DNA on the clothing in Paul's house or Paul on camera disconnecting his own surveillance at 1:28 in the morning. Questions aren't evidence, and after 2 weeks of the trial, everything is still pointing in one direction, and it ain't at Corey.
John Day, what are your thoughts? Is there anything suspicious about Corey's statement or Corey's actions?
I mean, in a vacuum, yeah, maybe it's suspicious. Saying I don't drive at night is that unprovoked? Is it something that he just volunteers? But in the big picture, again, the defense has got one avenue left to it. It's the classic SODD defense. Some other dude did it. And we actually know who the other dude is. It's Corey, because conveniently, he was the guy who was not investigated, who was not looked at by the police. The defense is left with, that's really all they're left with. But the door was opened by law enforcement in the sense that they did not focus on him in the way that they did on everybody else. So the defense has got to go down that route. They've got nothing else left. And they're also looking pretty, they want the jury to look at the financial situation after the murder. What was Corey doing? What was he engaged in? What were the transactions? So that's where they've got to go. They've got nothing else.
Yeah, that is becoming very clear that it doesn't seem like they have much else. Tony Bruschi, if I'm in the jury box, though, I want to see and hear this man. What if nobody calls him? What do you think the jury takes away from that, Tony, if, in fact, Corey Caneiro never makes his way into the courtroom?
I don't know. You got so much pointing in one direction. Does it hurt? Does it help? I mean, could it open a door to reasonable doubt in some way, shape, or form, depending on how he reads to a jury? Is that a line you want to cross? Is that a dice you want to roll, really, with the jury, just in case something is said or missaid that doesn't quite land? I don't know that you really need him to make the case at this point.
John Day, what are your thoughts here? What happens? We have about 30 seconds left here. What happens if Corey Caneiro never testifies and the jury never sees him?
Do you have a suspicious juror? Do you have a juror who's skeptical of law enforcement, skeptical of the prosecutors? If all it takes is one to hang them, maybe there's more than one. But the idea that here is the person that, it's the dog that didn't bark theory. So it could be significant.
Yeah. I mean, it was significant in the Karen Reed trial. There were some people who were talked about who never testified at that second trial, and the jury didn't like that. All right. Big thanks. We ran out of time. Tony Bruschi, Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. John Day, great to have you aboard. Thanks so much. Now, I don't know Corey Caneiro. I don't know the nature of his relationship with his brother Paul, but I wonder what his reaction was when he found out Paul was basically pointing the finger at him, accusing him of shooting their brother, shooting and stabbing their sister-in-law, and then brutally stabbing their little niece and nephew to death, and then setting the house on fire that they were in. My guess is the jury wants to know. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.
There you have it. If you want to see more in-depth reporting on the latest true crime stories, you can see me every weeknight, 8 p.m. Eastern on Closing Arguments. Thank you so much for downloading. And as always, please don't forget to hug the kids.
This podcast is a production of Court TV. Go to CourtTV.com for more content, trials on demand, and to find out how to watch Court TV in your area.